Thank you. It's great to be with you guys here today. I'm just going to give a little context of where this idea was originally birthed. So myself and a gentleman named Anthony, who's sitting right over here, had this idea a few years ago to start an organization called Kids Pool Swimmers. It was basically a local advocacy group just trying to get the pool open longer through the year so that we could swim more often. And what we realized through that time is it's very expensive to operate the pool. And the idea to build a new pool came about. And once Mayor Ken Sim proposed this idea of holding Bitcoin on the balance sheet, one day it kind of hit me. Bitcoin could be the answer to the problem, the financial challenges we have. So we contacted Colin from Mint Green and said, hey, Colin, is it possible to heat Kit's pool with Bitcoin miners? And Colin, of course, said, that's exactly what we do. So that is where this panel is coming from today. So we're going to start things off really simply and just explaining what is Bitcoin mining for those of you who are still struggling with that idea, as many of us are, because it is no simple task to understand. So maybe, Leo, why don't you start off first in explaining us, in your words, simply, what is Bitcoin mining?
Bitcoin mining comes from the problem that without a central authority, who proposes which transactions go into the chain, which transactions are now processed and which transactions are still pending. And so this has been a problem that's been unsolved in computer science for a very, very long time. And Satoshi proposed a solution for this in 2008 that can be pretty much summarized to: we create a lottery, and everybody can join that lottery by burning electricity. And by participating in this lottery, you get a chance to propose what transaction goes into the block. And as a reward, you get the transaction fees and initially also newly created Bitcoin. So Bitcoin miners are now machines that take part in this lottery. They consume electricity, and that costs money. And as a potential reward, they get newly created Bitcoin and transaction fees. These machines are computers. They are specialized computers, but they're nonetheless computers. And any computer generates heat as a byproduct of the information that it processes. And when we talk about Bitcoin mining, we often talk about it in the context of its impact on the environment, its impact on electricity consumption, its impact on noise. But in essence, they're just running computers and take part in a massive global lottery for the purpose of ensuring that Bitcoin remains decentralized and no single entity controls it.
Thank you. Mike, can you talk to us briefly about the environmental impacts of Bitcoin mining? We hear this a lot. Is it as bad as people say it is?
It's not as bad as people say it is. More energy is better. There's no nations that are energy poor and rich. You have to have energy to have a successful nation. We're really lucky in Canada where we have a lot of resources. We have the opportunity to create a lot of energy, and we should be taking advantage of that. We want people to have low costs of energy, so the more energy we have, the better. I don't think it's good to judge on what people are using energy for. For instance, I believe the Christmas lights in America is more than the whole Bitcoin network. People want their Christmas lights. Why can't we have more, especially done in a sustainable nature? One of the really good things about Bitcoin mining is it encourages the price of energy to decrease. And when the price of energy decreases, it helps out everyday citizens with all of their bills. And one of the really cool things that Bitcoin mining does in the energy market is it rewards renewable energy sources because those end up being the lowest cost inputs. And the more renewable sources we have, the better.
Thank you. Colin, tie this up for us. How do Bitcoin miners heat a pool?
Principally, it's not particularly challenging. I mean, essentially, anytime compute or work is being done, there's going to be entropy in the form of heat. So, The example I used with the folks at CBC was, your laptop. It's on your lap. Sometimes it gets hot when it's processing more. That's just basically the electrons being turned into the work from the processor. So if you look at a ASIC miner, a Bitcoin miner, it's the same principle. It's just we're doing much, much more of that. So we're getting twice the utility out of the electron rather than, say, either just processing or just burning electrons to create heat.
And how efficient are Bitcoin miners, or as you've coined, digital boilers, used as a heating mechanism versus just a boiler, a traditional boiler using either gas or BC hydroelectric?
A digital boiler is over 97% efficient. So really the only losses come in the form of the pumping of the dielectric fluid. An electric boiler is very near 100%, and your typical gas boiler is in the high 80s, turning gas into heating. But compared to, say, a natural gas source, a digital boiler source from BC hydro heating, so energy, like, say, in the order of 97% hydroelectric, prevents 2,000 tons of CO2 from entering the atmosphere per year per megawatt as compared to natural gas.
What's a megawatt?
A megawatt is a measure of energy. A megawatt.
How big is a megawatt?
That's a good question. So a typical house, a detached house, is probably going to be using 4 kilowatts. There's 1,000 kilowatts in a megawatt. So we're looking
4 kilowatts in a year or in a day?
4 kilowatts maybe consistently. That's sort of that's a peak measure. The measure of total consumption is usually an hourly basis. That number can vary depending on the uptime. So I don't have a calculator in front of me, but we're talking for a digital boiler, it's 400 kilowatts consistently. But that's every hour it produces 400 kilowatts of heating energy.
One thing I find that's really important in discussing this, and especially for those of you who are Bitcoiners and are proponents of these types of ideas, is to really try to simplify some of these ideas. And Colin needs to do that for me all the time because I don't know what a kilowatt is. And I think it's really important for us as messengers of this movement to simplify these things so that regular people can understand it. Regular people just like me, Colin.
You're not regular, Jared.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I've never been striving to be regular. You guys, could you ever have imagined when you started in Bitcoin that Bitcoin could be used as a mechanism to heat places? Is this something that you guys have seen since the early days? Leo, you've been around for a long time.
I imagined Bitcoin miners to be a lot less data center driven and a lot more home driven. And I would not have expected them to operate at the scale that they do now, where you have large warehouses that moves to where the energy already is. I would have expected that the Bitcoin miners come to me and they sit in my home. But if they, only now that they operate at such a large scale, can we practically think about industrial solutions and industrial uses of them? So I did not expect that, and I'm quite amazed by how the industry has developed.
Well, I mean, smart guys like Colin, right?
I agree with that. And since I've been in the Bitcoin community, I've been fortunate to meet Colin and Jen, who are at Mint Green. And so for me, it's all been an idea pretty much since I started. And that's something that's really cool. So newer Bitcoiners right now, you're learning about this stuff that people were just theorizing about years ago, and they're doing it right now in the moment.
Colin, can you tell us about the economics of heating the pool? Right now, we heat the pool for a couple months of the year, which is when it is open. It closes usually Labor Day and doesn't reopen again at best till May long weekend. It's the largest outdoor pool in the country at 137.5 meters long, and it's a big body of water. So how economically does this make sense?
I would almost put it in the inverse. It absolutely makes no sense to do it another way. If you were to run the pool continuously throughout the year, this is a significant investment in infrastructure. Our estimates are somewhere between $800,000 and $1.2 million to heat it. that is at the peak load, it's upwards of 2 megawatts to heat a pool that size outdoors in BC in the winter. We expect, and this is notwithstanding actually being able to sell additional heat to neighboring communities, which is done throughout Vancouver already with district energy systems. But we estimate, just shy of $3 million in revenue from that. So you would be not only not paying, but the actual project itself is sustainable based off its heating source. And then you can calculate, the amount of extra customers you gain and users over that time as well. Maybe even times that by a factor of 2, because 3 or 4 months is a very short season.
One challenge that we have currently with the city of Vancouver is that the city cannot hold Bitcoin on its balance sheet, which of course Mayor Ken Sim is trying to address. Considering that stays in its current form, how could this actually work if the city can't actually hold the Bitcoin?
I would see this as one of 2 ways. The strategy that seems most likely to me is there'll be a third party holding it and possibly also paying for the heating portion of the pool. In this case, that looks to be kids pool swimmers or some group attached to kids pool swimmers. Alternatively, I don't think this would be the wisest of plays, but you could essentially just have the Bitcoin sort of liquidated incremental times, and the city would just take the cash directly. Probably not the best management strategy, but it would still make the economics work. In fact, the economics I was talking about have no sort of like timing the market or holding strategy. It's basically a liquidation every month. It's very linear, so it's still very strong in that format as well.
Mike, when we look at sentiment around Bitcoin, how much does sentiment and community's understanding of Bitcoin impact the success of a project like this?
Yeah, I think education is one of the most important things. Whenever I talk to people for 30 seconds about this project and explain about how it's good for the city, they immediately think it's a no-brainer to do something along these lines, and especially if they have no bias. And the more we educate people in the community, the easier things like this are going to be able to get passed. And that's what's really good about this conference as well. There's a reason why it's called Learning Bitcoin. We're all learning together. And sentiment only improves the more people learn about Bitcoin.
Any thoughts on that, Leo, as well?
Energy is very difficult to grasp. It's very difficult for us to grasp how much electricity are we actually consuming, also because our homes have become very energy efficient. So if we look at especially our light bulbs, used to be 100 watt, now it's maybe 8 watt. If we look at our appliances, we're using less and less electricity at home. And so we think of our own footprint as very small because we don't see how much energy goes into producing maybe the can of pop that we just opened, and how much energy goes into moving the trains, and how much energy goes into producing the things that we have around in our home. And these things also hugely vary by geography. In Canada, we are blessed with massive natural resources, including renewable energy, and that means we house a lot of energy-intensive industries that other countries can't accommodate. So when we then compare the usage of our own homes we measure the Bitcoin consumption in how it compares to entire countries, but we might not realize how little electricity some countries use compared to others, irrelevant of their wealth background, simply based on how much electricity there is available at what cost. And I find that is the biggest hurdle when communicating Bitcoin. And to quickly add, the second one is that when we are looking at cans or the SkyTrain, or we're looking at how much energy it takes to build a kitchen, those are all things we use regularly. So those are things, and even when we look at data centers or AI, those are things that we might use in our daily lives. So we think of that as justified usages of electricity. But for many of us, or for even many of us in the room, and definitely most of us in Vancouver, Bitcoin is something that's abstract and it's something that other people use. So then it feels like a waste, because that's electricity that's now used without you directly experiencing the benefits from it.
Do any of you have a wife? I've got a wife, and she's texting me from the back of the room. So I guess that's a thing.
Any good questions?
Yeah. She says, "This is too much in the weeds. I'm confused." This is not a joke. This is true. This is her question, and this is not actually supposed to happen, but thank you, Ashley, for interrupting this panel. Can you explain this in layman terms? How exactly does a Bitcoin miner heat a pool? What is the machine actually doing that creates the heat, and how is that heat transferred into water?
So yeah, we touched on this a little bit, but
She wasn't listening.
okay, that's fine. So essentially, a computer processor, in this case, it's a ASIC core. Again, stop me.
What's an ASIC core?
It's a chip that does a specific job. So your CPU can do a bunch of different jobs. A GPU can do a fewer set of specific jobs. An ASIC can do one specific job very, very efficiently. In this case, that would be to run to guess at the SHA-256 algorithm, which is a Bitcoin-specific algorithm. So as long as we can accept that computers make heat, okay.
You can, yes.
In our case, we have what's called a dielectric fluid, which is a non-conductive cooling oil. So imagine you're running computers in what looks like water. This is a very dense way to capture thermal energy. And so we essentially pump them over this fluid over the boards, which takes the heat away from the boards, concentrates them in one section of the digital boiler, which is then pumped out into an aptly named piece of equipment called a heat exchanger. And that heat exchanger is like a labyrinth that is separated by usually copper plates, and the heat is transferred from one medium to another simply by just being in contact with these plates. So on the one side, you'd have the cooling oil. On the other side, you would have municipal water, pool water, whatever you're trying to heat.
Thank you. That's great. I mean, since Ashley started this, does anybody else? I'm gonna ask one more question. If anybody else has questions, think about it, and I might give you the opportunity to do so. Is anybody really into swimming here? Lots of people are really into swimming. This is important for society, right? Swimming is an important part of, and understanding how to swim is a really important part of society. How do we deal with the noise? When you were on CBC or CTV, the first thing you said in the interview on national news was, "It's going to get loud in here."
Was that the first thing I said?
I don't know if it was exactly
that
the
was
first thing, but
that was an edited piece. I was giving them a tour of the facility. We do have a traditional mine to sort of show the juxtaposition.
I'm going to put a swim cap on.
There you go. That's awesome. As I was saying.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
So traditional mines have, Mike Saylor will call them cyber hornets. Like they're all these very powerful fans on each unit. They're very, very loud. But in an immersion setting, there are no fans. It's in a fluid. It would basically be, if you ever walked into a mechanical room before, there's like a hum. It would be kind of like that from the pumping system, and that's about it.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, does anybody have a question? Okay, you got to come up to me. You're too far away. Come up here. Who is a swimmer? I got a swim cap for you. Someone close? Okay. Now no one's a swimmer all of a sudden. This young man's a swimmer. Here's a swim cap for you.
I like the
You
crowd
wear that.
work.
Says Kit's pool, 137.5 meters. That's the length that the pool should stay.
How close are we to getting something like this in our homes? Do you think that we could possibly either people be mining themselves, or maybe you could have an organization that could be like, let's just use BC Hydro as an example, but not BC Hydro, obviously, but to actually apply that to your house?
Principally, the process is the same. If you have a house that is with electric baseboards, that's challenging because you don't have a centralized heating system. If you have a centralized heating system, it would be very, very linear to do something like that. I mean, it takes some doing if you want to do something in immersion, but I mean, we simply heat the main part of our office. We simply just put a miner in the downstairs portion of it, run it on a low mode, and it will provide heat to the building. So you can get complicated with it, or you can get very simple with it. But these units generate heat. It's just what makes sense for your area.
Thank you. Anybody else have a question? Yes, sir.
I mean, so this might be really obvious, but are you really looking at Kit's pool having a big, huge computer below it or beside it or whatever?
I didn't quite catch that.
Are we looking at having a big computer below or above Kit's pool to really do this?
It would actually be hundreds of computers. In what we call, like, our digital boiler has 120 of these ASIC miners. And
how much space does that take?
Presently, it's about 8 feet in diameter, about 4.5 feet tall for one digital boiler. But because of this application, we'd actually be interested in inventing a 2 megawatt one, which would be larger, TBD.
So that's like this big, like not that big.
Yeah, it's basically those two panels right there, and about 4 feet high.
Great, thank you. What about the regulatory issues with BC Hydro? BC Hydro has a moratorium on Bitcoin mining.
Do you want me to get into the weeds or not?
No, just simply tell us, Colin.
If you already have an electrical service, that doesn't generally apply, particularly if you're not a high voltage energy service. BC Hydro correctly views us as a heating company, so we don't really count as mining either. They won't put that in writing for me, unfortunately, just yet, but that's what they've indicated. And usually you have to be over 5 megawatts to be also considered. So it's new services over 5 megawatts and not a heating source is sort of like where the moratorium hits.
And how many megawatts would it take to heat Kit's pool?
Maximally 2.
So less than half of what is required.
Yes. Yeah,
limited.
And that's a significant amount of heat, and that's still under the bar for the moratorium.
So I think it's important to recognize there's obviously a lot of narratives out there. BC Hydro not allowing Bitcoin mining is one thing that we often hear, which simply isn't true in many situations. So in communicating this at Kids Pool Swimmers, and Colin with Mint Green is trying to say, like, you can actually do this. There's no limitation from the province to do an application like this.
I think and I could be putting my foot in my mouth here, but I'm fairly certain that it's actually is the province, and BC Hydro is actually totally fine with it. The province,
I do believe that is true.
Yeah, the province may say no.
Yeah, they do set the regulation. Pete owns a restaurant just downstairs called Mahoney's, and he accepts Bitcoin at the restaurant.
Great restaurant, great Guinness.
Woo! Thank you. As a citizen of Vancouver that would be wanting to support this project, and maybe to echo Ashley's comments, to very simplify for us citizens that could help with this, what is the ballpark dollar figure that it costs currently to heat Kids Pool from May long weekend to Labor Day? And minus the infrastructure setup, what would be the dollar value cost if it was being done through Bitcoin mining? Approximately.
So, I'm not. Are we privy to that?
I don't think we know how much it costs to heat the pool. Anthony, do we know? We do not know, and it's not clear that anybody knows. To be honest with you, we've tried to get these numbers many times, and it seems to be quite a process.
So you're going to need, obviously, they're heating it during the warmest times of the year. If I were to venture a guess based on what we're looking at, it's probably somewhere between $150,000 and $200,000 to heat it at present. But if you're extending the season, if you're extending the season, it's considerably more. But the beauty of using a digital boiler is the more energy used, the more economic it is to actually use it. So, you're talking a larger number in terms of energy consumption, but you're also talking a lot more capital, a lot more users, a lot more utilization, and you're basically getting, 3 years of use out of this pool for every 1 year of relative to the current regime.
One issue that we have in Vancouver is there's just not enough pool space. There's not enough lanes to swim in, and the capacity, like at Hillcrest, runs way above capacity. We're losing a 50-meter pool down to a 25-meter pool at Vancouver Aquatic Center. So this could increase swimming capacity quite significantly, especially in a comfortable environment like a heated pool. What's the cost of the digital boiler?
So the most expensive part of the digital boiler is the ASIC miners, and those are somewhat cyclical. So it's tough to say at the exact time, but if I were to make an educated guess at this, it would be in the realm of $4.5–5 million Canadian.
Thank you. Anybody else have one last question before we wrap up? Oh, Cole at the back. Cole, can you get up and walk a little? Thank you. Or run. Cole's wearing Bitcoin shoes. A good opportunity to show us how fast they are, Cole. Oh, you're not? He's not wearing Bitcoin shoes.
He's just moved from
Sorry,
L1
he often
to L2.
does.
I got Bitcoin socks on, though. Who else here has Bitcoin socks? Whoa. Well, I thought I was unique. Oh, Mayor Ken, he's got... Oh, wow, those are nice. Good job. No, I was just wondering, it might have already been discussed, but how close do you think we are to having this? You know, what stage are we at? How many more stages do we have to go until this is like a reality?
There's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done. I mean, the actual, like, where the pool's going, how it's designed, the architects on that, that's not decided yet. It looks like, you know, something exciting, something, you know, a reimagined pool is in the works. I would hope that in the next 2 years we could get this done, but there's a lot of steps and a lot of hurdles to get here.
I think it is important to communicate with our city councilors to let them know that you want this, whether you live here or not. This could be a model for future projects in the city where we can heat other pools, buildings with digital boilers, and also be an example to the whole globe by putting together a world-class project that represents not just beautiful architecture right on the ocean, not just a beautiful swimming facility, but also technology that our young kids and teenagers and college students can look at and say, like, I live in a place that was the first to do something at this scale. And I think that's really important for the inspiration of young people to continue to work in entrepreneurship, and for young swimmers to be like, wow, I swim in the biggest Bitcoin heated pool in the world, or I swim in the most beautiful heated pool in the world in January in Canada. I think these kind of ideas are revolutionary. And it wasn't really until the mayor said we should accept Bitcoin that these ideas started to flow. And sometimes it takes an innovator to really spark these ideas in others. And out of that, I'm sure we will see other innovators step forward and say, here are some other great ideas in which we can use Bitcoin to live a sustainable, affordable future. Guys, thanks so much for being on the panel. I enjoyed my time. I hope you guys did too. Thanks so much.
Yeah, come see me if you have any other questions. Love to chat about this. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.